Curious.
Um, Stop complaining and game. No, that's
Yeah,
not what it is.
I know, right?
The franchise mode for because MLB did theirs today.
Gotcha. I really don't want to talk about that. Not I
Oh,
have nothing. I have
I'm
nothing
not.
against it, but I mean, I think we discussed that a lot already.
I think I'll probably do like my own video
And I
on
think we,
that.
yeah,
But I mean, I think we
that's
discussed that a
understandable.
lot
I'm
already.
making sure this
I
audio is
think
good. Look at the audio is
I'll probably
straight.
do like
It
my
is
own
popping
video.
up on the other speakers. That's fine. All right, let's get it. This is episode 225 of the First of Framerates podcast. Myself, DJ 81. Bills is still, as far as I know, still going to take a leave of absence. But if he wants to come in, the link is there. Always, his 2 cents is welcome. And that's just how we rolling right now. Other than that, man, everything is good. Like I said, DJ, myself, and we're going to talk about this title that we have on the screen. Or if you're just listening to us, you can look on the app that you're listening to us on your favorite podcast vessel. The title's going to be Can/Will Sports Titles Be High Quality This Generation? Let's speak on it. Um, I'll do my intro first. The last couple of days, man, I've been having fun playing a few games. I just did a video on the VFcast as far as other games that I'm trying to pick up because of these e-stores are probably shutting down. I'm going to talk more about that on the VFcast on the episode 2 that will be Saturday. So I'm not going to talk about that right now. But there's a game that I bought recently. It's very good, and I'm surprised nobody has talked about it. I will speak on that later on as well. It's not a sports title, so I'm not going to talk about it here. But definitely gonna be talking about it on the VFcast, and I may go ahead and I may stream it once I already know already I'm going to be playing this game more than once. It's that good. So the second go around, I'll probably stream it so everybody can see it, or whatever the case may be, or have my take on it, or I may just stop, depends on how I feel, and stream it. I don't know. I like the game, and I'll speak on it then. And if you watch my video on the VFcast channel, you know what game I'm talking about. So go over there and check out that video. The link is down in the description. VFcast, that channel is growing pretty well. I really appreciate everybody who's been going over there, giving the thumbs up, people who've been watching the videos, and it looks like we're on our way to grow something pretty special over there, as well as we're doing over here. Other than that, everything is good. DJ, how have you been, man? What's going on with you?
Nothing much. I have to take my L publicly today because the reason why we actually went live later than usual by like a minute or two, is because I was sitting in the Twitter DMs waiting for the invite, and I was sitting there like in my head cursing out VF, like what the fuck is going on? Why is this motherfucker hadn't sent anything yet? I was sitting there like cursing VF out in my head, and then
Keep
my
talking. I'll be right back.
okay, and then when I finally looked, well, like I said, I've been looking in the DMs. I scrolled down. The invite had been there for the last 6 minutes. Yeah, I sat there. And what normally happens is that when you get a new message in your DMs, just like any instant messaging, it pops up. And what happened was VF had sent the DM at 7:54, and I didn't see it until 8 o'clock because my dumbass did not sit there and scroll down. But at the same time, I was expecting the thing to update because I had been sitting there just as long as it had been sitting there. So, or maybe I don't know, but I'll
So,
take the
so, so
L.
basically, so basically, your phone's playing tricks with you today because it
Actually,
usually scrolls.
it was on my desktop. But either way, I'll take that. I publicly take the L for that because I was waiting. I literally in my head started cussing your ass out, and then I just on my own scrolled down, and there it was, and it had been there for quite some time. So I'm like, hey, I'll take. I told you before that, like when we were scrambling to get on. I was like, I'll publicly take the L for that. So yeah, it is what it is.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, but I mean, like I said, man, hey, there's some games out there, and I'm not gonna get into this too much because I really want to talk about this on my other podcast. There's some games out there that are really, really good. And I think we need to start looking around and see what games out there that are worth playing, because I don't know if I found a hidden gem. I don't know if I found a game that people knew about and just ignored. But the game, that Remnant game, I don't want to talk about it, but if you went on my other channel, that game is really good. A lot better than I thought it'd be. So, but we'll get into that. Today, we'll get into that at a later time. This episode is basically going to be talking about sports titles. Will they be high quality this generation? You know, these episodes, what I'm talking about, these consoles.
Well, they're going to turn into bad episodes at this point.
I know, all right? These consoles are capable of putting out really good products. There's no doubt about that. We've seen what they can do when early in the early stages when you have high quality games. There's no doubt that this is not like last generation, where last generation we had a situation with games coming out semi broken, and I'm not talking about Cyberpunk. That's a different story. That's a last gen game anyway. But talking about most of the games that's coming out that's built for the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series, there are a few of them, but the ones that came out or the ones that are coming out, you could tell that people, they're actually taking their time due to COVID or whatever the case may be. They have a lot of cushion, a lot of leeway because of the pandemic. They have a chance to really put out some really good products. That, like, it leaks over to other games, but right now we're going to talk about sports titles, because sports titles have been getting a bad rap since the PS3 era. I mean, it goes all the way across the board. I don't care if you like baseball, basketball, football, soccer, hockey. It doesn't matter. There's some games who have progressed in a good fashion since that time, but for the most part, there's been a time where these sports titles have been lackluster way beyond their predecessors, where the PS2 era were like damn near better than the new era, where it should be the other way around. Maybe this generation could be the generation where it surpasses that, where it actually be the newer generation is actually better. I want to get in a little more deeper into that, but I want to just talk about the surface. And DJ, I want your thoughts about that just on the surface. What do you think about them being better, and do they have the prospect of being better? I just want to know your thoughts.
For this next generation or iteration of sports games, they have the potential to unlock a lot of things that we have been waiting for. I would say mostly, like, we've been seeing improvements graphically each generation that we've gone upon, but gameplay has been kind of like mixed and kind of back and forth and stuff like that. But I feel like with this next generation, with the computing power of both the Microsoft Xbox Series and the PS5, I feel like they both could unlock stuff like improved, like vastly improved, almost human like AI logic, as far as, you know, performances on field, like with decision making, with different games, like the list goes on and on as far as that's concerned. I'm trying to figure out some other things that the next generation of gaming can, being able to contain more commentary, being able to, hold more stats, show more stats, more visuals as far as the presentation is concerned. And then when it comes to the franchise mode, being able to put in systems that they claim they couldn't put in the last gen, like maybe a wear and tear system, or a coaching progression system, or a coaching tree, or coaching carousel, and a very immersive free agency off-season experience in all these sports modes. Stadium Creator apparently only makes the next gen, but could have been in the past gen. So it's like all these possibilities are sitting there waiting to be unlocked and touched upon, but it still remains to be seen, because I feel like certain sports games are going to give you the okie doke again.
And the things that you mentioned, like the stadium and the coaching carousel, you really want to think about those things being a next gen product for PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series. This is the problem with that. NCAA 14 had a coaching carousel. That was not this past gen. That was the gen before that.
Right.
Stadium Creator, that's been in since what, PlayStation 2? See, this goes back to what we're saying, how far behind that most games are, particularly Madden. Like, though this stuff has been in the game way back then, sometimes maybe 12 to 15 years ago, and it's not there now. It's really disheartening that it's not there, and we're talking about this type of stuff being next gen. What and no, I'm not saying that you're wrong, not by a long shot, because it's need to be in there. But when I talk about high quality, those things that's definitely a part of it. I'm just talking about like some of the bug fixes that Madden has the most part. I mean, sometimes you can't even get the tackling right. Sometimes you can't even get the animations to come right. It's like, how you gonna have a more powerful system and you can't code the animations to be correctly?
Well,
I mean, it happens in other games too. But I'm just saying, I don't want a dog on Madden, but that's the one that we, have problems with the most. That and live.
Yeah, but that's part of the potential for this next gen is to be able to expand upon those, even the bug fixes. I'm like, it's not just about adding quote unquote new stuff that, like I said, and I mentioned it just a little bit before. It was like, stuff that people claimed they could only do it on next gen, but was in previous generations before
right.
that. As a marketing ploy, it's because you get companies like MLB The Show are charging $70 for the game. I'm like, you get MLB The Show on current gen on PS4 and Microsoft Xbox One, it's $60. But if you get it and you want to upgrade, it's an extra $10. But that extra $10 apparently will give you maybe, and I think I sent the message to Ramon Russell about the menus. As little as that is, it does make a difference when you're paying an extra $10 and even the menus are different. And it's like, okay, a menu doesn't really take that much space. You could have the menu look exactly the same on both, and it shouldn't have to cost you extra. So I just look at the fact that, with that, with the more powerful systems, you should be able to have room to take care of all these bugs. But at the end of the day, it's like, no matter how powerful these systems are going to get, it just seems like you still have the human element, you still have the greed, you still have the aspect of prioritization in what matters from the company standpoint. And that's the terrible aspect we find ourselves in as consumers and gamers, is that we're stuck with these companies dealing with greed and wanting to get the most wanting to get the most from us, the consumers, by giving out as little as possible and hiding stuff behind next gen systems as an excuse.
Yeah, I think they use it as a cover to say, hey, we're on our way there, where we know good and well that they can do it. Like, they basically can do it right away if they want to. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the PlayStation 4 could have done pretty much everything the PS2 era could have done. I mean, that's just my opinion. I believe that everything that happened that they wanted to do in the PS4, everything that was done in the PS2 era could have been done on the PS4. PS3, maybe not, but PS4, absolutely. So I think they tried to use it as cover to say, hey, we're going to give you this much and implement it very small just to keep you coming back every year. And I think that's very disheartening, because now at this point, we should be able to have, I ain't going to say everything we want in a football game, but I think we should be able to have the basics. I think we should have at least the basics in NBA Live. I think we should have, even the way 2K is done, 2K is give you the basics for the most part, and they're on their way to expand on that. You see what they did on the PS5, and I mean, you look at PES, you look at FIFA, you can talk about what they have over there, but they, at the most part, most of these sports titles are giving you the basics. Now we're just asking for things that adds on to the immersion, and you rarely have a few sports titles that give you that immersion. They just give you mostly the wow factor. I think a lot of these games, they lean on the wow factor instead of just the authenticity of the sport. I think that's something that we've been missing for a long time. State of Franchise says these companies have the opportunity to have logical dynamics. Is that a word? Dynamism and nuance not seen in other generations. I know what he means, but I believe
I know exactly. He's saying adaptive AI. I've been saying that for years, even with current gen. So
he did AKA. He's an AKA making the game think as opposed to always reacting. That's adaptive AI.
Adaptive AI. Yeah, a little bit of it is in Madden, but you have a lot of it in 2K. You have a lot of it in 2K. You definitely have it in MLB to show. You definitely have it in NHL currently.
Right. Shout out to everybody who's here. I mean, you see a lot of people saying what's good. Quaface, State of Franchise, Hunter, Dre, Spec is here. Dave Tenico, good to see you as well. Mm-hmm. You know, you always quiet when you're here. You don't say much, but we're glad that you do show up. State also says that Stadium Creator were basic-ish. MVP 05 had fairly in-depth Stadium Creator in the PS2. Yeah, and Madden 08 did as well. You know, so it was there. And it was good enough so it could be coded in the game. The problem was they kind of got away from it once the PS2 era was over. Like I said, PS3, okay, I understand is a new generation. You may not know, but by the time the PS4 and the Xbox One came, everything that should have been in the PS2 era should have been in the PS4. There's no doubt in my mind it should have been that way.
Well, also add in the fact that 2K has a fully rendered Stadium Creator / team relocation / you can do the jerseys. A lot of stuff that was named in that stream I saw earlier with MLB The Show for the Stadium Creator deemed next gen, that's currently in 2K.
Right. Basketball. And another thing, we didn't want to speak on it too much today, because it's like, you know, it's a hot topic. I understand.
I'm just using it as an example.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about it in general. It's just like, you know, it's very easy just to go along with everybody else is doing what they're talking about. MLB The Show is going to be there. We'll talk about that at a later date as far as the franchise. We just got finished talking about it last episode. I don't want to duplicate it, but nevertheless, just like you said, these games that actually have a foundation to do things like that, I believe that once again, the PlayStation 4 era has been a wash for a game like Madden, where they did some improvements, but overall, by the time Madden 20 came, I'm not even talking about 21, but by the time Madden 20 came, at the least, the game should have been up to par with what you saw in the PS2 era. And I'm not talking about just gameplay. I'm just talking about the robust modes and all the small intricacies of the game. Mm-hmm. It's like the injuries, the holdouts, the morale. All those things should have been in there. It's like you got this XP for experience or whatever the case may be, but it's just not the same. It's really disheartening that they did not capitalize on that like I thought they would. Hunter Iggy asked a really interesting question, what I think is I think he's really loving basketball. He wants to see basketball alternatives. He says, do I think ESBC will ever make an NBA game? I'm taking it one step at a time. They're working on a boxing game. I don't think they have any interest. Based on the way their boxing game come out, and if they get a big enough crew, I would like to see them do other things if the boxing game is successful. But right now, I don't think they will. I do have faith in what Scott OG, if he's working on basketball, and the 2K family are doing. I have faith in them. I think basketball overall, I think the basketball genre in the video gaming is in a good space. Even with we say what we say about live or whatever, I think the basketball genre is in a good place overall. Even if you like either or a game, but that's basically just on the strength of 2K. 2K is just so strong with the basketball game. Even if you do look at both sides, you can say, hey, overall, basketball is in a good spot as far as video games. Dave Teen Eagle says that I think that patches set games back because it allowed them to make incomplete and fix it later. You're right. And in some cases, they don't necessarily fix the game. Some of these patches make it worse. I think that, back in the day when you had a game that had to be flushed out and it had to be working by the time it was released, for the most part, most of the stuff in the game was actually working, especially in the PS2 era. That just not just for Madden. That goes for 2K. That goes for the hockey game, FIFA. Most of the stuff, there are things that we may not know that needed updates, but it's nowhere near to where it is now, to where like you actually have like 2-man animations literally broken, tackles broken, stiff arms broken, some referee calls broken. We didn't have those issues back in the PS. I think the biggest thing we had back in the PS2 era, I think we had I think it was NFL 2K3, where certain quarterbacks could not get sacked. And no matter how many times you hit them, they'll just stand there, and they would not fall down if you hit them over and over again. And I don't think that was ever updated in the game. I think that was the case. I think shout out to Dollar Jr. He was trying to tell me about it one day. I had to go back and test it out. It's not all quarterbacks. I think it's like 2 or 3 of them in the game that just, no matter what you do, they can just stand in the pocket all day, and they will not get sacked. But outside of that, all the other games have been fairly decent overall. But I think he's right.
All right. On top of that, I would think that the ever changing developers, as far as like the staff members constantly changing, not having a robust like foundation, like a sound foundation for their game, depending upon who's been there the longest. Like when you hear I'm gonna use MLB The Show because they've had primarily the same core staff for 19. I would say about 19 years.
Yeah, it's been almost 20 years. I think they've been around since they've been doing MLB on the PS2.
So it's like they understand where they're going. They understand, and they really have full control over that game. And then you look at Madden, the developers have little to no control over the game, where the marketing team controls how the game is made, which is ass backwards. And constantly on top of that, they're constantly changing developers, like the ones not the ones that we hear about and can possibly see, the ones that we don't see. Like they're always, when I go on their website and I look at their hiring page, they're always hiring temporary positions, temporary QA, temporary developer for a certain stage or whatever. It's constant change. And when you're dealing with constant change within the organization, i.e. Washington Wizards, then you're not going to have that firm base to get to the next level. And that's why I feel like some of these games are at. They're doing too much changing, and they're also allowing the marketing to run how they, make these games. So that's that.
I think that's one of the worst things you can do is have a bunch of temporary people build a game. Unless especially when it's a yearly title. I think that's what, you can get temporary people to come in and do, like, let's say the next Call of Duty, or do a game that's going to be like a one and done that may do a sequel. I can get that. But even when, let's say, that one game was successful and it's going to do a sequel, I think you would want to bring those temporary people back in, right? You don't want to hire another temporary person to work on the sequel that the first temporary group of people made it a masterpiece or made it great. You understand what I'm saying?
That's true, but again, on the company side of things, it's cheaper because you don't have to pay certain things.
I agree. Because
for a full-time permanent employee, and you don't have to worry about the termination aspect. They don't even have
to be a full-time person. That temporary person could come in and say, "Hey, you paid me $10,000 to work on this, and this game was successful, and now you want me to do a sequel? Shit, now I want $1 million." You see what I'm saying? They
can ask for it, but then what happens is that company is like, nope.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why they'll bring another temporary person in.
But the company is going to continue to bring people on a temporary basis because of that.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. The company, as far as the greed and the quest for more profit, are going to continue to do that.
And I don't blame if a developer does that. I don't blame him, because you know your worth at that point. If you and a group of guys come in as a temporary group, you make this game for this company and it does very well. And yeah, you may be a temporary developer. This game sells bonkers. It does really well. If they do come back to you and say, "Hey, we want a sequel," shit, I'll at least ask for double the next go around at the least. So I can understand why a company will say, "You know what, we'll just go with another group and go from there."
Yeah, because we talk about it on the sports level as far as these contracts are concerned. Sometimes you have players that are on contracts for certain lengths, and
They
want to
outplayed their contract.
Yeah, right, and they can renegotiate their deal. Unfortunately, in gaming, like people don't sign multi-year deals or whatnot if they're signing contracts. They're usually it's year to year or 6 months, maybe 3 months. But to have the leverage to be able to renegotiate based on the success or lack thereof of the game is I I'm not a developer. I'm only guessing, but it's non-existent.
But it's very hard to negotiate when you're temporary as well. It's very hard to negotiate.
Well, it's even hard to negotiate when you're permanent, because even when you're like a Rex Dixon that wants to clearly fix the game, and then they give you the boot because you're saying a very logical thing about the game. It's like the marketing team didn't want to hear that, so they probably went above and was like, you know what, he gotta go. We're trying to make money, not fix the game.
No, I mean you're right though. It's just I mean that's the truth, and you end up dealing with a situation where I think mostly, like I said, with these yearly titles, you deal with a situation where you just can't progress with the game that the way it should because of that. You're dealing with a game that really needs a consistent amount of a consistent mindset, a consistent group of people that's constantly going to continue to work on the game. Like State of Franchise, I put his comment back up again. He said the guys that's doing MLB The Show, they've been around since 989 Sports. Now, mind you, 989 Sports started on the PS1 era.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? 989. Yeah, they started around the PS1 era. So that's 5 generations they've been around. And look at their baseball game. Now now MLB, 20 is an anomaly because that game was like, it was a bunch of bugs in that game. And we could talk about the ball going through the bat, but for the most part, that game plays a damn good replication of baseball. And you can't ask for more than that when it comes to the sport. You want a game that replicates the sport. It does it on a very high level. If that's the only problem that you want to talk about that's in the game, you really don't have any problems compared to these other games who have a plethora of problems. I think NHL is another one. I'm not really sure, but NHL has their dev team around for a while. DJ, you would know better than I do. I mean, how long those guys been around?
Well, let me see. The main guy, I'm gonna call him Sammy because Sean. I don't know his. I can't pronounce his. They call him Rammer or whatever because it's like Ramjin Singh is his last name.
Right.
But he's been there for quite some time, but I really can't say for the rest of the people to be on that. I have to look into that staff a little bit more. But
I mean, because NHL's been pretty decent since what? NHL 11, 12?
Right. Ever since they put in their physics engine, and that was pretty much the last time around that time period, at least for EA Sports, the last thing of innovation that they put in their game was physics.
Yeah, because the physics really showed in 14. Right. And from there, the NHL just took off, and like every single year, people be griping. I noticed that in the hockey community, a lot of people gripe about the game, but every time I play it, I have a blast. I think it's phenomenal.
There's a lot of other things that if you go to an NHL 2K, and this is from like a simulation standpoint, I'm like the way they program NHL, it's programmed to be fast paced, up and down.
Yeah,
like arcade-like with sim qualities. You know how they call it. I'm gonna call it arcadeulation.
Yeah,
instead of calling it Simcade.
No, I'm about to say shout out to Resolve. Resolve used to call it Simcade.
Yeah, so I'm calling it arcadeulation because it's arcade first, simulation later. You can make that shirt, but it's one of those things where you look at a 2K hockey game and they have I'm watching the Caps get blasted by the Islanders 6-3 right now. It's in the second period, but the strategies that both teams are trying to put out there, you can put in an NHL 2K hockey game. Right now in the NHL hockey game or for EA, they don't have as much items as far as on a strategic level. I'm like, the defensive side of the game is not as robust as it should be, as it was displayed in NHL 2K. The offense is not as robust as it was at NHL. Basically, a lot of things were not as robust on the strategic level, on the simulation level. Even the core gameplay is different between NHL 2K and EA Sports NHL. It's not so much up and down. You can make it that way, but that one, I would say NHL 2K would be more the simcade instead of arcadeulation. So
Yeah, I haven't played NHL 2K in a while. I think the last one I still play NHL 2K5 every now and then, but I haven't really touched it. Probably about a month or two. Also, I think I have NHL 2K8. I played that. I think 2K11 was the last one, but I only found that game on the Wii, and I'm not touching that game because it's on the Wii. But I'm saying like NHL 2K8 is a pretty good hockey game. They have like little things you could do to do little trick shots or whatever, and it plays pretty well. It's pretty smooth.
Well, they had a presentation element where you could be playing. You know how like people like to play games and it's just a soundtrack. You can play with whatever soundtrack. Well, they had a mode where they had soundtracks based on situations in the game in the NHL 2K series.
Oh wow,
was crazy because it would build drama, excitement. It pulled you into the game on top of the gameplay itself.
They need to start doing. They need to start doing games like that again because I remember the original Xbox tried to do that with like Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. They tried to do it. Well, they tried to do it with all the Grand Theft Autos. I remember they tried to do it with Forza 1 because you could put your music into the original Xbox. They tried to do it on the 360, but it never worked. But they just got away from it completely. I think the last game that really did that, like you said, NHL. But I'm talking about like later on down the road, around like 2011. I know. Marvel's Capcom 2 tried it, where you could put music in while you're fighting. Gran Turismo 6 tried it as well, and it was another game that I know, but they kind of got away from where like for instance, you have Spotify or whatever, or you have whatever Pandora. Like certain songs will come on based on whatever happens in the game. I think NCAA tried it, but you have to put those songs in a certain order for it to do that. I think NCAA 14 does that, like if you score a touchdown or whatever, kind of like 2K5 did. But it just, nobody never looked into it.
Well, you also look at the fact that there is a small amount of fans that want the NFL Films music to come back into Madden because you notice how that's been slowly dying.
Oh, it's gone. Like I think
it's still there. There's new mixes, but they're not the original ones. Yeah,
the NFL Fever type.
I wouldn't say NFL. Well, yeah.
Go
look. NFL Films. Music.
No, I'm just saying. No, when I say NFL Fever type, like when NFL Fever, if you play that game, they have the OG orchestra NFL music. That's what I meant to say. I think Madden 08 on PC does it as well. And I think I don't remember the last game that did it, but I know NFL Fever does it, and Madden 08 does it.
I think the last time you really heard it was maybe Madden 12, 13.
Yeah, I think 12 did it. But yeah, but I don't even know why they ever took it out. There should always be an option. I mean, that's their own music. Why would they?
But just think about like that aspect, and going back to our topic about the quality level. Just imagine if like the one thing we the one thing that we want in our games is highlight reels. Now imagine those highlight reels done to those soundtracks. These systems have the capability of making that happen, but I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. It's about priorities, greed, and the longevity of that development team to fulfill a vision. And I feel like we could have all that in this current in the next gen, but those main factors are going to continue to reign supreme again. I'm like, look, greed led into these consoles being released in the middle of a pandemic. How bad does it have to get?
Yeah, I mean, me and you've been on record saying that these consoles shouldn't have came out at this time, but that's another story for another day. But when you talk about greed, not only talking about that aspect that you're talking about. Let's talk about the different modes that they cater to outside of just putting basic stuff in the game. I was floored when I saw Superstar KO in it, and they know damn well we needed franchise mode to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, that right there almost made me not even want to play Madden anymore.
Right.
But if it wasn't for our listeners, I'm dead serious. If it wasn't for the listeners that wanted me to play the game again, I probably would not have played that game anymore because I was so upset that you guys put Superstar KO in the yard and all this stuff in. Y'all put that stuff in instead of just at least just putting the small things in franchise mode that we wanted. We're not asking for a lot. And then when Madden 21 came out and they saw all the small things they did, like when they basically said, "Oh, franchise mode is going to be a patch," compared to all this other stuff, that's when fixed franchise mode hashtag started, and rightfully so, because it's like you guys want the NFL, you want the game to look like what we see on Sundays as far as the NFL, but you got the yard, you got Superstar KO with Snoop Dogg playing. I'm like, it's okay to have it both ways if you're going to work on the game from both ways. Yeah. I have no problem with the stuff being in the game, but give us the fundamentals that makes football first.
See, that's why you have.
I don't think that's hard to ask for.
See, that's why you have to. The companies are ass backwards when it comes to how they make the game. Like EA, I wouldn't say all of EA Sports was like this. I kind of focus on the folks in Orlando, how they control the folks in Orlando over the folks over at in Vancouver. They look at EA Orlando and they allow the marketing team to run the games made by that studio versus the folks over in Vancouver. And it's just like, look, you need the developers to be more in control of the game so they can fulfill their vision. Marketing, you don't know shit about the vision of the game. You're just wanting to get exposure for the game. And I think based on the developer's vision, then you market off of that, not the other way around. That's not how it's supposed to work.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree with that because I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a situation where these games are marketed as sports titles, but you're putting all this extra stuff in it. At least one thing I will say, at least with NBA Live, they knew their lane. They knew they could not compete. They tried with Elite. They tried with 13. They tried with 14 and 15. They tried 4 separate times. Well, 5 if you want to name NBA Live, quote unquote NBA Elite 12 that never came out. And then they knew when they came back with 16, they knew their lane. Yeah, the game played a game of basketball, but they knew they couldn't compete. I respect that. I have no problem with that because you know where you're getting your butt kicked at. But at the same time, with Madden, they don't have anybody to go up against. I mean, who are you competing with? Axis? I mean, come on now.
You know what's funny? We haven't heard from those companies in quite some time. I wonder what's going on with them because
I know Maximum and Axis. Yeah, I know they're going radio silent for real. But I as far as I know Maximum is still developing games. I haven't heard anything from Danny. If anything, Dollar General will know better than I do. Dollar Junior would know better than I do. Yeah, I know. I said General. I know. It's so hard to Dollar General. Yeah, I did it again. Dollar Junior would know better than I would. But shout out to him.
But you know what? That's for as far as Axis, because their franchise game just as Axis been wild quiet. This is the second time they've gone radio silent.
They've done that, right? Yeah.
Within a cycle of and definitely same with Maximum Football. It's just like I don't know if with Maximum Football, with them dealing more with college football, I wonder if they've gone silent because they're trying to dig into the weeds of this whole NCAA player likeness and trying to see how they can come out of it where they are in a better state than maybe a EA Sports having to deal with announcing a game and then colleges like, you know what? We'll wait until after this mess clears up before we.
I think Maximum is in a tight spot, and I will say this: they made a college game. On top of that, this is also a Canadian football game. Canadian football is now teaming up with XFL. So they're in a tight spot. They don't know what to do with their game if CFL and XFL is actually, if they're collaborating. I don't know what they can do with their game.
Not really. They have all the rules. They would just adopt the rules of maybe the XFL. They already have all these rules
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But how would the licensing work for them to put that out there? You kind of see what I'm saying? Like, how would they do that by putting like what the licensing is going to be? Is it going to be an XFL game? Is the XFL is it going to adopt the CFL? Is the CFL going to adopt the XFL? It's so many moving parts right now because nothing's official. They may be in limbo as far as what kind of game they could put out.
Okay, I get that. Aspect.
You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, college is already on the road to like paying their players, and they might could get the CLC license to some teams or whatever.
Well, that's the part I was also
right. So.
About. Yeah,
like they're from three angles, their game is no fault of their own. In three angles, they're all over the place.
Which to tell you the truth, is actually not a bad spot to be in.
Not at all. It's not.
Because
it's not.
They put it out there to make a college game with no player likenesses or whatever, and made it to where everyone could do what they wanted to with the game. So they put it out there. So now EA Sports is like, God damn it, Maxwell, why'd you have to make that game? Now colleges are they probably seen that game was like, you know what? You can make a generic version of my college. We'll just wait until this player
right. And the thing is, that's one of the best things. That's one of the best ways to do it when you have all this litigation. To be honest, I'm honestly surprised. I'm honestly surprised that EA didn't go that route with at least NCAA 16. 15 was probably up in the air. I get it, but the following year, just say forget it. We're going to give you 126 generic teams and just roll. Well, I mean, the team builder was already there in place. They could have done it, and they just decided not to. I mean, I'm kind of floored at that.
I think they did. Yeah, I think it was confirmed that because they had the green light to do 15.
Yeah. It was just going to be called college. Yeah, it was going to be called college football 15. They could have done the game. They just couldn't have the NCAA license on it. So with that being said, even though you probably couldn't get all the teams, I mean, how much? Let's be honest. The strike when the iron is hot. People were still going to buy the game. I don't care what anybody say. They're not going to walk away from the game, especially when people realize, like, okay, there's an aspect of this game where I could just download the teams, and have people would have done it. I mean, people are quick to download DLC. People are already quick to download rosters. What is to say they're not going to download another file with the team logos? Mm-hmm. I mean, that one step is going to deter them from buying a game. I highly doubt that. I don't see that happening at all. All this DLC, all these MUT packs, these people are willingly paying the download by the hundreds and thousands of dollars that they're paying to download MUT packs. You mean to tell me they're not going to download a free roster and a free logo design? I think there was a missed opportunity there.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. It's just something to think about. So while we're still talking about the quality, I don't know if Scott OG is listening to us. Let's talk about live for a second. Do you think that this game in particular could be in high quality this generation? Because this franchise has been through hell since Live 10. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? And people in the chat, if you want to talk about that, the comments are open. Let us know your thoughts as well.
It definitely has the potential. Going back to what I said about sports games in general, that team, if Scott OG is doing this game, his team built that core developers, and hopefully you guys stick around long enough, because I think as long as they establish what they want to do from the onset to the consumers and to that marketing team, because obviously this will be an EA Orlando product. So he's already I think they will have an uphill battle with that marketing team. I'm like, I don't know who's on that marketing team, but the dynamic is like marketing team matters more than the development team, apparently. So they set expectations early to the marketing team, as well as setting the same expectations to the consumers, and then fight for it and keep that core staff in place. there will be temporary employees, there will be stuff like that along the way. That's just the nature of the business. But at the end of the day, if Scott and his core group are able to realize the full vision of what they set forth at the beginning, then this game not only could meet 2K, possibly surpass it.
I see
Yeah,
Scott OG. I knew he would be here. What's going on, Scott OG? Good to see you. No, but I will say this. I've been in. I put my stock in EA basketball, especially when I knew that he was going over there, because I seen his work. I seen what he was capable to do. I seen what he was able to do with Live 14, as bare bones as it was. I saw the vision in that game, even in some aspects of Live 15, which is still my favorite live of the past generation. I see what he's capable of doing. So now, if not only them, skipping this year, this cycle, or possibly next cycle, I don't necessarily know, and he's never said, but if he's working on an EA basketball title, I'm putting my stock in it, and based on what his knowledge and the way that his approach to gaming, I'm not going to necessarily say that they will surpass 2K, but they definitely have the potential to, because I like 2K and everything, but I know there's times in 2K you just get frustrated at what they do over there. And with OG mindset, he likes to put out sound, fun, fundamental gameplay. And if you get that, I think that speaks a lot to people who just want to play basketball on a virtual level. Live, I mean, not live, but 2K does this thing where it looks good, it's flashy, it looks nice. They have all these nice looking aspects of the game. But when you see the game, for the most part, it caters to the people who want to play online. And I'm not saying that live can't do that, but I think it should cater to people that play online, but they have to learn how to play the game based on the confines of the sport. Because I see a lot in 2K where a lot of people do things that somewhat goes against the rules. It goes against the fundamental knowledge of basketball. They do a lot of things that, that just makes you scratch your head, because when you're watching basketball on TV, if you're at the basketball court, you don't see that kind of stuff. And at least with live, I know at least since Live 15, I mean, even with 16, Jesus Christ, 16, even with 16, 18, and 19, those, especially with 15 and 19, those two, like,
are you talking about live? There was no 18.
Yeah, it was Live 18. There was no Live 17. Yeah, James Harden was on the cover of Live 18. I can't believe you didn't know that. Yeah, James Harden's on the cover of Live 18. Yeah, go back. Yeah, James Harden was on the cover of Live 18. So, but when you look at those games, one thing I will say, even when you play it online, those games actually respected the sport. There was no weird glitching or weird cheese and nothing like that. When you were trying to get buckets, you got buckets straight up the right way. Now, was all the animations there? Was it a little wonky because it was still behind? Yes, but when you play that game, it respected everything. I ain't gonna say respected everything. It respected most things about the sport. It was no like crazy cheese to get buckets or play defense or just, set up your offense or set up your defense. I mean, I know one of the weirdest things you talk about is that wheel, the call plays. Now, I don't think that's intuitive, but actually when you called the plays, they played out right and they did what they're supposed to do. And I think that's one thing I want. I want the game to just play correctly. I don't care about all these 360 dunks. Now, if you get a 360 dunk in the game, great. But I don't think that's something that need to be pushed. I think it just needs to be, let's get the basics down first, and then we'll get back to it. And I think that's the thing that makes it great.
Just to put it out there in all transparency, Scott OG knows my complaints. I fed all my complaints to him about that weapon wheel, so he knows.
Yeah, I think that's one thing they definitely need to get rid of. Because, I mean, you guys seen it. I streamed Live 19. When I played it plays a pretty good, compelling game of basketball. I mean, even people who didn't really think about Live, they was like, well, damn, BF, you're playing the game pretty decent. It looks like something that you can see on TV. Because even though the game has lack of animations, it respects the sport. And that's what gravitates me to that game. It respects the sport. I don't, like I said, I don't care about the lighting and sweat coming from the players and all this stuff. I mean, that's cool, but why I have to do all that and I can't get a basic layup to work right? Or I can't get I can't get the proper crossover to work correctly. Why the movement and the spacing is not respected. I can give. I don't care if the sweat it looks good on a player if that stuff's not correct, if not right.
One thing I noticed was in the ESBC gameplay trailer that we reacted to on Tuesday, was that the developer sat there and said they allowed the boxer in their motion capture studio to go in and just do their thing, and that's what they were going to go off of. Now with live, you notice that the way and we've seen kind of videos of how 2K does their motion capture, but live, and I think OG was a part of that with 14 when they were bringing that back. They told everybody, hey, we're motion capturing 10 players at a time because we want to bring you a basketball game that respects spacing, leverage, ball handling, responsiveness, and stuff like that. And the only way you'll really get proper spacing is if you just motion capture 10 players, 5-on-5 gameplay, and you build off of that. Let's talk about that solid foundation. If you're motion capturing 3-on-3, 1-on-1, and stuff like that, I've seen debates back and forth actually between Scott OG and Smitty over 1-to-1 interactions as far as like dribble responses to dribble moves in 2K, and wondering are they connected or if they're free of each other, whether they're unbreakable or not. So it's like, I feel like if you do it that way and allow the players to be motion captured in their natural state, you'll get a natural game.
Very good point. Very, very good point. Very good point. And OG says he remember that. Yeah. I say I'm dead serious. I say this every time he comes up here and talk to us, or when I see it, or I just decide to tweet it out on Twitter. And OG I trust. I've watched what this guy can do. I've seen it. I've been a big fan of his work, even when he was shouting out Ryan Moody back in the old days when Ryan Moody was doing the Madden stuff. I know he has that vision similar to what we have, and you rarely see that in a community like the sim community that lingers over to the developer side, because it's so many other things that they have to worry about. And I respect it, I understand it, but just to see somebody have an inkling of that mindset that we have, I feel that there's hope. And for him to go over there and take on that task to make something of that, make something with the basketball game is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. Like I said, if there's a stock, this Dogecoin, something that that's real low, I'm putting all my money in it, and hopefully it rises to the top. And like I said, he comes from that same mindset, and that's exactly. I wish that not just with simulation games or just even with arcade games, even with first person shooters, even with any other game, I wish they have that mindset to where they want the game to be fun and it makes sense on a realistic level. Because we could talk about all the whimsical games, the Uncharted's where you climbing all over the place, the Final Fantasies when they're have all these type of powers. But at some inkling, it has to have some type of something that makes sense. It has to have something that makes sense to make. And I think when you have something in the game that makes sense to a person who plays the game on a sensible level and gives it that whimsical fantasy feeling at the same time, if you can merge the two together, you have a level of immersion where people can relate to. It's almost similar to like somebody telling jokes. Like, jokes aren't funny unless if somebody can relate to the joke. You can understand what I'm saying? It has some form of a joke. It has some type of truth to it. That's what makes it funny. It's almost that same type of analogy. State of Franchise says, I like to think the time away to help move live towards being able to compete, be stable to continue. The time away has helped it. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like when you had that time away the first time, when you had that time away the first time, I think when they came back with 14, I think that's what they did. People can say what they want about 14. It was not the game that was received well, but it was a very stable game. I mean, you didn't have any like real glitches and bugs. You just had lack of animations. But everything that you asked for in the game, it worked. The bounce pass worked. The bank shot worked. The Euro step, the drop step, all those things worked. It's just the only problem with live is just lack of animation, and that kind of carried over throughout the entire generation. Like, okay, this game is nothing really. I think 16 was like the only one that had like really bad glitches and bugs. But for the most part, the game itself, lack of animations was just the problem. That's the only thing. State of franchise game also says if football can do natural moves and natural habitats, that's going back to what I'm saying. If they could do natural moves, it goes back to what I'm saying. It gotta have some level of realism that makes sense. But even if it does have this whimsical fantasy feeling to it, if it makes sense to the naked eye and it looks like something that could happen, that's where the immersion comes in. And I saw that I saw that, OG. No problem, man. You said appreciate it. No problem. That's one thing that I really I look up to a developer like you because you speak that same language. You have that same mindset, that same language. So I'm backing you 100%. I'm not saying that just because he comes listen to us. That was even before. As soon as I knew he went to EA, I was like, okay, I don't know when this game is coming out, but if he's at the helm, I'm putting stock in that because I believe that the return is going to be good.
No,
and I'm not just saying that.
No, I'm gonna respond to State of Franchise Gaming. So, just back to that statement: if football games can do natural moves, and also carry, what is it? Damn, I forgot the trait, the words I was looking for, but carry like player specific moves and stuff like that as part of natural moves. Right. Again, it's all a part of motion capturing, I believe. And it's one of those things where, like, if you want to capture the natural state of football, you don't capture one position at a time. It's going to be more difficult in football. I do understand that. But if the only way you're going to get it is if you motion capture all 22. That's the only way.
I can understand that to an extent.
Because I can't see how a sport can exist when it's built based on 1v1 interactions, unless it's baseball.
Well, I think they can do it. It's just going to have to be compartmentalized, and that's where programming comes in. And that's just a trick that they're going to have to do because I don't think they'll actually get 22, 11 on 11. They could do it, but I think it's highly unlikely to get that kind of movement all over the field like that. Mm-hmm. But this is what I will say. When I go back to saying about the natural moves, natural habitats, like he's saying, when I saw Darren Sproles break out of a pro tack in Madden 10, I was done. Because scatbacks necessarily aren't going to break out of a 6 or 7 man, a gang tackle. Darren Sproles is like 5'6", 180. That's not happening. So when that happened in Madden 10, no, it was Madden 11. That's when pro tack was in, right? Mm. Was it Madden 10 or 11? I can't remember. No, Madden 10 had pro tack. Yeah. Madden 11 had locomotion. So when it happened to Madden, I was done. I was done with the game because these small backs, it does happen. They could probably run over somebody in certain situations, but that's a low probability situation. But when you see that happen more than once or more than twice in the game, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm done. Or same thing like when you see somebody that's smaller to constantly getting rebounds over somebody in a basketball game. That type of stuff make me not want to play. It's like, give me stuff that makes sense. And if you want to throw a little flash on top of that, that's what video games are about, bro. I mean, a lot of people want to sit here and say, arcade style games and this, that. No, video games. I mean, we could talk about this at length, but video games, most of them, probably 98% of them, have some type of fantasy aspect in them. Regardless, you see somebody juke somebody in NCAA, they juke all the way out of the picture. It happens,
I'll up that to 100% because you're controlling them. You
right.
have a God's eye level of everything that's going on. So unless you're playing CPU versus CPU, it's 100%. I will add on that 2%.
Yeah, because a lot of people say they want a full-on sim. You don't really want a full-on sim video game. I think NY Kia, wherever the hell he is, he doesn't love us anymore. He didn't come on the podcast, but that's a different story. But he said it himself, and I agree with him. Nobody wants a full-on sim. They don't. Do what you really have to do in a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game to actually replicate the sport, nobody would want to play that. Man, yeah, I think the only time that works is like in a flight simulator or a trucking simulator. That's the only time that works. And even in that place, that's tedious.
I'm about to say, they don't even want adaptive AI. I'm like I said, I really was saying that for the longest. And I had people come at me where to know they should be able to understand the pattern of the play call, and the play call should defeat the no. You see,
it doesn't work like that. It doesn't even work like that in real football,
because it's all about the individual adjustments here and there, whether it's basketball, whether it's hockey, whether it's even baseball. I know as a shortstop, if I understand a hitter's tendencies, I'm not going to be in the same spot at shortstop every single pitch. It's also going to depend how well I know my pitcher. Okay, if he's a little slow on the pitch, more than likely I'm going to play my batter to pull if he's a right-handed batter. If he's a lefty, I'm going to play him to pull, and I'm going to be playing closer to second. But these are the individual adjustments I make, and I want to see players in the virtual sense make these same type of adjustments.
You basically want the rating awareness mean something.
Yes.
You want the awareness mean something. Exactly. And I agree with you. I agree. I think one thing I will say, Madden on the PS2 did a pretty good job of that. When they had good awareness, they don't bite on play action. They didn't bite when somebody did a double move. PS2 Madden did a fairly good job of it. It's only a PlayStation 2 game. They only can manage with so much as far as memory on individual players, but it did a pretty good job. It kind of got away from that after that generation. You just don't see it like that no more. But I'm with you. Like the awareness rating really need to be exactly what it is, awareness. And you don't see that. I mean, that's not just in Madden. You see that in a lot of games. You see that in a lot of the sports titles.
Right, because when you get into these other modes, then you see how the mode change. Like if you're playing a franchise mode and you have adaptive AI and stuff like that, you see how teams are different. You see how possession to possession is different. This was the biggest thing to have ace. I keep bringing this up, and OG, every time you pop up, I have to bring this up. The fact that you have ace in a game, every team is different. Even when that coach leaves, another coach comes in, and they will have a completely different system than what their previous coach. You can play game 1 and game 4, and all 4 games will have like different little interactions that make up the full game. You may, like, as a team, if you have a better team, you probably win 3 out of 4, more than likely. But you'll see different things happen. Like you see players get denied off ball. Some players will play hard hedge on a certain player. Some people will just leave people be because they suck. So it's just one of those things. Like you look at NHL directly goes off your gameplay. So
yeah, it does.
If you're constantly clearing the puck up the boards, the AI eventually, and they have a slider for this. Ask the folks up in EA Vancouver. They have a slider for the AI, adaptive AI. Damn, the Islanders scored again. Where the computer, they notice that you like to clear up the boards, they will cut that off.
Right.
If you like to recycle or whatever, they will cut that off too eventually. You have to learn to play with the dynamic aspect of individual adjustments.
Right. And that's the thing. I noticed that when I was playing NHL 21. Like, matter of fact, I noticed that when I was playing NHL 18. And Yeah, and even in some cases, NHL 14, I think that's something they've been working on for a long time. Because even when back then it wasn't as robust, but they will change up if you are getting away with certain things on NHL 14. It will change up their defense. So this is nothing like new. And like I said, when you look at like NCAA 14, the one thing about that game is they have a lot of players that do different things, but for the most part, the defense is still stagnant. The only thing that actually matters is if you have a superstar in a certain position, they will shine. And I guess that's okay, but you would like to see an adjustment, like I think Quaface talked about. I don't know if he's still here. Like when you see teams running the option or they running the spread option all the time, you don't see defenses adjusting to that. They continuously play the same base defense and they don't adjust to it. And that's one of the downfalls of NCAA 14. The AI don't adjust to a team that run pro style, or they run like a pure triple option or spread option or air raid. They don't adjust,
Like here's a question. When you're on offense playing any Madden game, how do you know a safety blitz is coming?
Oh, they usually just come straight down. They just show their hand.
Right, and this is before you snap the ball.
Right.
So they haven't, in all these years of making the game, haven't figured out that, hey, maybe sometimes you want to have the guy maybe already there, disguise the coverage a little bit, make it a shell. All Pro Football 2K8 had a shell that you could manually change to disguise coverage. It wasn't within the play itself.
You could disguise it, and you had hot routes for every single DB.
Right.
Like you could change a DB, do something like the one on the fly. Like
hell, offense even, and Madden finally did this, but All Pro Football 2K8 had formation shifting, so you could call a dummy play and then call the real play before you get to the snap. I remember I made getting call timeout because I came out in an I formation, but I had what do they call it? They actually call it 31. It's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. Set, but they were all lined up in the I formation. I hit the call, I think not the snap button, but I hit whatever button to fake snap. They went into the 3 wide out. He's like, "Oh shit, what the fuck?" And then he called timeout. So it's just, yeah,
right. I mean, I think that's one of the things like they show that. And then another thing with Madden, I don't think they do a good job of stunts or anything. I think that's one of the big things.
They've been terrible with stunts.
Yeah,
I seem like but pre-play stunts they seem like they don't have. But I've seen stunts play out organically that turn out pretty damn good. But having a pre-play stunt actually is needed in that game. All Pro Football. I actually did a video on that.
No, I think All Pro does it. All Pro does it very well. I mean, they do their stunts so well. Sometimes you get caught off guard with the way as soon as you hike the ball. I mean, you got linebackers coming one way, the safety goes another, the defensive tackle goes to the outside. I mean, it's a beautiful thing how they do it on APF, and I've yet to see that done very well in Madden.
Like I know right now you can manually have. Let me see. There's a particular stunt that you can do. You can manually set up, but it has to do it. But that's where their linebackers come in. You can have like the line slant one way, and then have if you already know the linebackers are blitzing one way, you can have the line slant to possibly either jam up.
Right.
And the stunt is mainly interaction based because the stunt's designed to take up a few players physically while one wraps
around the other way, right,
and then has a free shot at the QB, running back, or whoever. So
yeah, you rarely see like defensive linemen back up in coverage. Like they do that very well. I've noticed they used to do that in Madden at one point. But APF does it is pretty well in the game as well. Just like it just goes back, like we were saying back to the title. Like when you look at high quality sports how to be, those are the small things that they just don't have anymore that you think in these new consoles they will put that back in. I don't see why it was going to begin with, but I digress. But you will see something like that to be done. I would love to see it.
Well, the thing is, when you're dealing with greed, you're not worried about the little things so much. You're worried about what can get the most people, what can get the most people's attention in 1 or 2 shots. So if you take care of the big ticket items that will draw people, then you're like, well, they're here now, so we don't have to worry about the little stuff. But the teams that focus on the little things and build later, if they can withstand that initial, oh, nobody's really playing our game, but people are seeing the potential in the game and let it build from there, let it build the right way. And if the marketing team just does their job instead of doing the developer's job, then the game will be successful because they will know how to market what a developing team is trying to do instead of trying to give the developing team a roadmap of how they should make the game.
Dave Tenico said, I remember you can create your own. I think that's what he meant to say. You can create your own formation and plays on Madden. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on this. I'm not really sure if it's still in the game, but I know you used to do that back then. I know PS2 you could be able to do it. It used to be pretty neat.
I think all you can do now is just create your playbook.
Playbook, not the formation. Okay. Nope. But I mean, it's just what I was saying. Is like when you have these games, the way that they could come out, and it's like when you were saying about the marketing team, I have no problem with a marketing team doing whatever. My main thing is if they can get the fundamentals down first, I can care less. You can have your superstar KOs. You can put your featuring, said rapper in the game, or you want to put SpongeBob Nickelodeon in the game. I have no problem with that stuff if the game just plays correctly. That's why I don't have a big problem with Live 19. People can say, oh, Live 19 does not. I don't necessarily have a problem with the game. Does it need extra animations? Yeah, but the game respects the sport. And I don't care how flashy the game is or lack of flash the game. If it respects the sport, it gets a nod from me. You can put, what's that guy name? Dreamsicle or whoever that dude was, the fat guy that played basketball. I don't know who he is. You can have all those special guests in the game. I don't care. But if you give me just basic, stuff that correlates with the sport, I mean, you're going to get a sale from me. I'll pay $59.99 for a game if it respects the sport. I mean, I have no problem with that. But I mean, I would like to have franchise mode too, but you'll get my money if it respects the sport.
I look at it like this: like video games is not the only thing marketing teams ruin and water down. They ruin the music industry. They ruined the movie industry. We just seen it with what happened with the Justice League. I talked about that last night on my season 3 episode of What the Fuck Just Happened, episode 21. And speaking of 21, today is the late Sean Taylor's birthday.
Yeah, it is. I saw it on Twitter.
So happy birthday, rest in peace, Sean Taylor. But yeah, over on EVO325, I was talking about the fact that Justice League blew it out the water. The previous Justice League that was done by Joss Whedon. So when you have the marketing team and the companies getting in the way of original visions, that's what happens. You get a director's cut that winds up being better than what they wound up going with. So it's one of those things where, going back to video games, where you don't want the marketing team to run how you make the game. And with it looking at Madden, just bring it down a little bit. That's the way it seems. That's the way it has to be. I'm like, how many times has Rex said that he has to fight the marketing team each and every cycle just to get his stuff that he wants, that he feels that he wanted to put in that game that would have made that game better?
I remember.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The marketing team coming back to him was like, we can't market that. I'm like, bitch, you're supposed to market whatever I was supposed to make. That's your job. Stay in your goddamn lane.
I remember when Rex put out that picture of him talking about they were talking about the marketing stuff, and he was like at the end of the table said, "Oh, how about just making the game the way it's supposed to be?" And then they got mad at him and threw him out the window.
That's what I said earlier.
Oh man, I had
to fix the game. No, fire that guy. I've been trying to make.
Yeah, he put that tweet out and he ended up having to delete it because it caused too much content. I had a screenshot on my old phone. I wish I still had it. It was funny. Not to mention, Rex Dixon blocked me on Twitter for some reason. I don't know why. Remember I showed you that?
I think that was probably something that you
did nothing
some time ago. A lot of us maybe do nothing, but it may be something that we didn't. directly mean it towards a particular person. He probably didn't like something you said about maybe politically or whatever. He probably thinks you're like all lives matter. It just blocked you. I don't know.
He said I'm all lives matter. I don't know. He just I don't know. He blocked me on Twitter. I have no idea. I did nothing
at one point. So
no, I'm serious. I haven't spoken to Rex in over a year. And all of a sudden, I just happened to go on Twitter. I was just scrolling and I just noticed, like, well, he blocked me. Okay. I just shrugged my shoulders. Then I started to think, like, well, I haven't talked to him. Like, what I say to him, because, I mean, I have no problem being blocked for things I know I've done. But whatever. I mean, shout out to Rex, man. But, yeah, Rex, he put that tweet out. I thought it was hilarious, and then it was up for like 10 minutes, and he took it down. And it kind of told everybody the story of what happened to him. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but hopefully that's not the case with OG. What's that, baby?
I'm like, I can't reiterate this point enough. The marketing team needs to stay in their goddamn lane. Market the game that the developers are putting together. Do not tell them how to make their game based on what they can market. You're supposed to market whatever they make. I'm like, come on, turn water into wine. That's the way it's supposed to be. I
mean, I understand I understand there's some things that could be lucrative. You can add some things in. My main thing is let's have our priorities straight. Let's okay, if we're making a basketball game, if we're making a football game, we're making a soccer game. Let's make that first. Oh boy, you so heavy, boy, you getting so big. So let's make that first, and then we'll turn around. And we'll turn around and then we'll market those other stuff. We'll do that. So I think that's the main thing that we're missing out of all of this. And because I have no problem with the marketing team when everything is if the game's on point. I have no problem with that at all.
But that's the thing. It's like if you're a good marketer, you'll turn a lot of stuff that's already there into something more. That's pretty much the job. I'm like, you could suggest like, hey, maybe you could make this that would help me out. I'm like, it's a symbiotic relationship between the two. But one should, I'm like, it should originate from the developer to the marketing to be able to, okay, you're making this, okay, it gets to the marketing team. It's like, okay, well, how can I make this better than what it originally was, as far as from a PR standpoint? I'm going to be telling the fans, like community managers are going to be telling the consumers about this game. What from this original product can I say that can get fans excited? So it's just like, I can go back to the developer, but like, hey, is it possible you could, add this? It could help me out as far as, and I feel like the relationship from other games, I see that playing out. I don't really see that playing out in Madden. It seems like it's more or less, no, we need to have this in the game so I can market it and put it out to the fans so I can get this company more money, and the company backing the marketing team and not the development team. So
right. Yeah, I think you're on point with that. I think that makes sense at the end of the day. That's what they're trying to do.
Daddy.
Yeah, that's Daddy on the screen. You see Daddy?
About to say, Super was on the screen. It's like, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
I see you.
Yeah, I see you too. Yeah, I'm over there too.
I see you.
Yeah, I see you too.
2.
Yeah, 2.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
2.
Yeah, you're 2. All right, 2. Yeah, you're 2 years old. You still learn how to count. Yeah, good job. Okay, now you gonna take over the show. Now you gonna tell everybody how you feel.
Everybody.
No, okay, say hey everybody.
He was like, hey
everybody.
But no, I just think at the end of the day, I think we have the potential to have a really good generation of sports titles. Because the way things are starting out, when you look at NBA 2K21, you even look at Madden 21. Yeah, that's a circle. That light is a circle.
But that is football.
Yeah, that's football. All of the helmets up there is football.
But that red.
Yeah, what's that?
Football.
Yeah, that's football.
Oh, that was you.
Okay, but like I said, I think we have the potential based on the two games that we've seen so far. Madden even is still like a PS4 game that's on a PS5, and with Madden, NBA 2K21, with what they have put out, I think we have the potential to have a really good. Then we have a really good potential to have really good sports titles, and I think at the end of the day, I think that's what we I think we deserve at this point because we went through hell for the past 2 generations. It's been hell with the PS3 and the PS4, the Xbox One and the Xbox 360.
Just to think, this all went downhill when I was 29. I am 41 years old, and we're still struggling.
Right.
This is as far as I can deem it, probably the worst decade in sports gaming ever.
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. I definitely can agree with that. No question, I can agree with that because you look at what's been going on. I mean, look back to 2011, talking about a decade, 2010. Hell, you can go back a few years before then, and you look at everything that's happened. Like you say, like Madden 09, NBA 2K9, all those games back then, Live 09. You see everything that happened from there up until now. It's been so many ups and downs, and I'm not just talking about Madden. We're talking about 2K had an issue. I mean, nobody wants to talk about NBA 2K 12 and 13. Nobody wants to talk about those.
Nobody block dunks in one of them, apparently.
Right. You don't want to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the NBA Live series after Live 10. You also had a situation with Madden. I mean, do I need to go Madden 09, 10, 11?
Shoot, actually, and it's funny because I'm like, technically, I was 25, 26 years old when EA got the exclusive license. So
right, that's what I'm saying. You can go back further than that.
It's just like, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can go all the way back then. It's like it was horrible back then, but
by the time that game,
it's just something that we have to deal with at the end of the day, and we look back on it, and hopefully we don't have to repeat next time. And I think that's the main thing. We shouldn't have to repeat what we have to go through. Because I feel like
I'm about to say, I feel like I'll be 50 years old by the time this game gets to where it needs to be.
Right.
And life is not guaranteed these days.
No, not at all. At the end of the day, yeah, exactly. It's like we just want a string of good sports titles. I don't need a whole generation. Give me about 3 or 4 of them that's actually good, and I'm good. And 3 or 4 is actually asking too much. Give me like 2.
Just to add on to that notion, I didn't have gray hair when this all started. Quite a few grays have grown since gaming took a turn for the worse, and I went bald at the same time when this happened. Come on, we really are getting killed in this as far as consumers, as far as these sports games. So we need something for this upcoming generation to be better than what it was.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm like, what else am I going to lose? Teeth?
Don't say that. We'll be 60 years old. It'll be Friends of Framerates episode 4071.
Why do they still have tumbleweed tackling in the game? What the fuck?
Right. We'll be talking about, will this generation be high quality? It'd be like the 12th generation or some shit.
Be in a wheelchair, lost a leg.
Right.
It's like war 2027 and...
So, you had anything else before we go? Anything you want to add? I think we covered this pretty well. I think it's a pretty good topic. Good feedback from everybody. I mean, if anything you want to talk about, I mean, you can add on to it.
Something, just a recommendation outside the gaming genre, but in the monsters battle arena type thing. I definitely recommend HBO Max's Godzilla versus King Kong.
Yeah, a lot of people say that's pretty good.
That movie hit. It's funny because I never tuned into because obviously it was a series of movies. It was Godzilla, King of the Monsters. There was Skull Island. Pretty much started from the beginning, bringing these two, King Kong and Godzilla, together in this fight that took place. I'm telling you right now, whoever did the motion capture for the two, because obviously they took two. From what I saw, they definitely had 2 guys just fighting each other, and they motion captured it and transferred on to these beasts because that shit was awesome. I love
Yeah,
it.
that might be something I have to look into.
I would definitely recommend
because
that.
I don't too much watch too much TV anymore. I think it's one of the downfalls. I just stopped watching TV. I need to start doing that again.
Yeah, but I need that. But I definitely need to go back and watch Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters. So, but yeah, Godzilla versus King Kong, whichever order that title's in, I definitely recommend go see it. Go watch it. It's on HBO Max. So yeah.
All right, well, let's get into these outros. I'll do mine. Hey, I thank everybody who came through. I think this has been a pretty good discussion. I love the feedback that we all got. My son even added his 2 cents. He's sitting here playing with all my consoles right now. It's time for you to go to bed, sir. You want to go to bed? Huh? Come here. Stop hitting that. You ready to go to bed? No? Okay, we're going to go to bed anyway. You guys have been great. I will say that definitely. If you guys haven't already, go over there to the VF Cast channel. If you're over here on YouTube, the link is down in the description. Go over there and click that link, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my latest video. Also, all the other links down in the description. I think DJ's his Twitch channel or his Twitch name is down there. The Teespring link, all the other good stuff is down there. The Patreon, all that stuff. You guys have been great. I'm going to be changing some stuff up on the Teespring as far as the merch, so be on the lookout for that. Also, I will be going live tomorrow. I may go ahead and finish up Gears 5, or I may play Madden. I don't know. It depends on how I feel when I get home. And episode 2 of the podcast, the VF Cast, will be on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll get into more depth as far as the preservation of games with all these stores going down as far as the PSN store, the PS3 version of it, and possibly the Wii U store virtual console is going to be going down as well. We'll talk about that. So other than that, man, I'll let DJ do his outro, and we'll get up out of here.
All right, so tonight was definitely a good show. Shout out to everybody that showed up in the comments. Definitely great participation for tonight. I still think there could be a little bit more. I can always ask for more, but I was happy with what we saw in the chat. So you definitely find me on Twitter. I'm on DJ81. If you want to chat, hit me up there. Always causing some type of mayhem or commenting on anything. If you want to check out my articles, they're on dj81.org. It also contains a playlist of my show that it goes live at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights on Twitch. And it actually multicasts on YouTube and Twitch, called What the Fuck Just Happened. Like I said, season 3 debuted last night, episode 21. So episode 22 will be next week at EVO325, the Twitch channel. And again, it's multicasting, so it'll also be on YouTube as well. Other than that, again, great show, great conversation, and looking forward to next week's episode.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Oh, also one more thing on the Teespring, if you want a cover for your phone, you can get this cover right here. First and Framerates podcast cover. They can have it in all shapes and sizes for your latest phones. That's also in the link as well. One of the newer things that we got on the channel, on the link, Teespring, the First and Framerates podcast. There's also going to be some other stuff out there, so you be on the lookout for all of that stuff as well. Also this shirt and also other things as well. Mask, hoodies, all that stuff is going to be discontinued really soon. So I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll be live then, and I'll see you on the podcast on the other channel on Saturday. We're going to get out of here. Ain't that right, baby? You ready to go? Huh? You want this controller? Here.
I have to say and also one last thing. Happy birthday to all the April Fools.
Yeah, happy birthday to all of y'all. Shout out to y'all, and y'all guys be blessed. All right, we're going to get up out of here. We'll see you guys next time. All right, guys. Peace. You want to tell everybody bye? You want to tell them bye? Say bye-bye.
Bye.
He's into this GameCube controller.